welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. What an honor it is to be with you today. I'm here with my lovely, sweet, adorable friend. We've never met in person, but we've had a great friendship over the last maybe year and a half. I'm not sure. I don't even keep up with it no more. I got one friend I've been friends with, and she said, Henry, we've been friends like 8 or 9 years. I was like, I think over time you just don't keep up with it like you used to. So
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about you as well. And I learned, like I told you in private, that I learned so much from you. And I told her that I wanted to come on today and do a show on pretending like I wasn't in pain or I wasn't in hurt. I think this is something we all can relate to. My name is Henry Harris. My guest today is Jenean, and I'm so honored to have her on the show today. I want to ask all of you to just relax, engage in the comments. And right now, we're going to do what we call share moment, where, and I do this, I take my phone and I share the broadcast to my platform. So I want to ask all my friends to do that, pretending like I wasn't in pain. I like that subject. I don't know how I even came up with that, but it's been on my mind lately because I'll be honest, Jenean, I've done that many times, and until this day, I still struggle with not being vulnerable, but it's just, and it just comes up in one of the questions too, like, can a person experience so much pain where they almost feel like numb,
Hmm.
um, like it doesn't even feel like a reality no more. It's like it's always being replayed. So we're going to talk about a lot of that. In this life, as we all know, um, it is obvious that we will experience trauma or some pain on some level or loss. Uh, it is not only undeniable, but it's also unavoidable. You can't really hide from it. You can't sweep it under the rug. You can't pretend like it's not there because reality is it is.
Hmm.
Um, as one of my friends told me one time, that you can lie to the world, you can lie to your friends, you can lie to your mom or dad, your co-workers about hiding your pain or pretending it's not there, but only you know the truth about the pain that resides in you internally that maybe nobody knows about. So, what do we do when pain comes into our lives? How do we respond to it? Do we just ignore it? Do we pretend like it never happened? And I've done that on several occasions. So, in today's show, that's what we will be focusing on. Not only why people pretend they don't have pain, but we're going to look at some effective ways with my friend Jenean on bringing people to a place of full, complete wholeness, and also by acknowledging it. So, Jenean, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Um, yes, it's been a year, and getting to know you has been such a blessing. We have our little joke, you're president.
Obama.
And I call out like, we need you, President Obama, here in
I
New
think
York.
I think that happened. I don't know if that was our first conversation when I talked to you on the phone, but you laughed for about 5 minutes straight.
Yes, yes, yes. You are such a joy, and my spirit is always uplifted when I talk to you, when I see you, and just really honored to be here. It's not a light topic, that's for sure. So it's
Yeah,
vulnerable, it's raw, and here we are. Here we go.
yeah. It's gonna be a great show. And again, today's subject is pretending like I wasn't in pain or didn't have trauma or didn't have hurt. Once again, share today's program. Um, I'm gonna be asking some questions, but this is also gonna be a dialogue too. That way, it won't come across as like I'm asking the question, you answer it. Uh, we can kind of go back and forth on our thoughts. So the first question I want to ask you is, uh, I know why I did it in the past, and I'll explain that after you answer. But why do you think people pretend like their pain doesn't exist?
The first reason I feel is the American that we live in. The American culture that we're in is very, very high stress, very
Mm-hmm.
stick. Our places do not allow for space to, you kind of are expected, if you have a tragedy, to return back to work as soon as possible. We do live in a culture where therapists abound, but it takes time to build trust and safety. Sometimes we don't feel comfortable, safe to open up.
Mm-hmm.
We might not have the right support systems around us. Oh, are we having a
Oh yeah, that was my phone that was doing
feedback?
that. I'm sorry. Okay, you can continue.
That's okay. That's okay. But yes,
Okay.
that's my first and foremost thought is really the culture. I just love to hear feedback from you. We could both come from a nursing background, and I would say even in the healthcare community, healthcare workers, are so overstressed. Doctors, nurses, and especially now with the pandemic going, even those who have a heart to create place for people to be able to talk about what's happened. Oftentimes we're in a system that's really opened, so there aren't enough people who can. There's so many there, and a lot of people they're tired, they're overworked, especially collar workers also, just
Mhm.
your people who are in the school system and the construction system, fast foods, wherever you have so that are putting in so many work hours, exhausting themselves, and their outlets are basically what their social media. It's your go-tos are, maybe alcohol, or
Mhm.
sugar, or things that will just, give you quick relief from the pain, from the mental stress. Women have a great support. Women are really better able to than men also, even with all the changes in our society, all the things that are taking place for that conversation. I still think we live in a society where it's really hard for men to come out safe to talk about what they're going through as well.
Yeah, that is so true, and I know that from
How do
experience.
you what do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I know that from experience because I've been there, and even to this day, I still kind of struggle with that, and I don't mind making that public because even as men, we're taught growing up, to suppress your emotions. You're a real man. You're not supposed to cry. Things like that. but the reality of it is that it don't make me less of a man to be true to who I am and to be true to my being. Um, the reason why I pretended in the past is because I've lied. And that's what worked for me at that time. Um, that may be somebody else's story today. Um, the reason why I feel like I had to pretend like my pain didn't exist is because for me it was the easy way out. Like if I just pretend like it wasn't there and just ignored it, um, it's like in your mind, it's like it's there, but if I just pretend like it's not there or it didn't happen, no matter what that trauma was in my past, that it never happened, it never exists, and no matter how much I tell myself or try to convince myself it didn't happen, I know it did, and all that did for me was it hurt me in the long run. I'll give this scenario. It's like I'm driving on my bicycle and I accidentally run over a big rock and I fall and break my leg. And then there's people standing around and I'm looking up like, I'm good, guys. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm okay. I promise. I don't need no treatment. I'm fine. And they're looking at me like, Henry, you just broke your leg. There is something wrong with it. But I'm just in constant denial. And even though I know I need treatment, and I love the quote that William Paul Young always says. He's the author of The Shack. He's been on the show a few times. He says, "The unexposed is the unhealed," and I thought that was a powerful quote. And from what I got from that as it relates to this subject is that what I am unwilling to confront, or even though that may be a hard process, um, I'll really never get complete wholeness or healing in that area while at the same time in denial that it never exists or it didn't happen. So do you think many people do it because it's the easy way out or they just pretend like it never happened? I mean, what do you think about that?
I actually think the pain itself causes us to run away because we know it's full. It's very scary to dive into it and discover what is this pain going to reveal to us? What is its message? It's scary to go through it. But the reality is the longer we spend time suppressing or ignoring it or hoping that it goes away, it just sticks in its own little energy field. And then eventually life will give us circumstances that will say, guess what? I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. What is pain but a messenger to let us know that something's wrong? It's the sole purpose of pain is to let us know that something is wrong, right? Whether it's our health, whether it's our emotions, whether it's just an unresolved past trauma that is still stuck in the nervous system, and it's creating a pattern in our lives. So yeah, I think that's really one of the biggest reasons. And it's like you felt the pain and then our now reaction is just let me get away from it as quick as possible and find relief and not pause enough to say, what is it saying?
Yeah, that is so true. And the way I look at pain is, I'm talking about internal pain. I look at it as, and you are in nursing. You made that public, and I am too. But it's like looking at a wound and leaving it untreated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, and just, I mean, you're not patching it up. You're not doing the necessary treatments on it. And I feel like in so many ways, uh, that wound just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and to the point where it eventually is beyond healing. And I'm not saying no one is beyond healing. I'm just using that for an example on the necessity of why it's important um, to address those wounds that we may be dealing with. So, speaking of untreated wounds, uh, why is it dangerous to keep unhealed wounds untreated? I'm talking about internally, not in the physical. Uh, why do you think that could be dangerous, or if it's dangerous at all.
I do feel it's dangerous. It's dangerous whether it's a mental wound, an emotional wound. You know, as we know, like with a physical wound, what it can become infected if it's properly. It's the same thing with an emotional or mental wound. We actually could start projecting our shadows onto other people. You know, most of like narcissists, you know, all levels of abuse, power plays, all of those things generally are rooted wounds, and you are not being self-aware as to what's going on. So you have a past memory of, you know, something with a parent or, you know, a childhood experience that weren't able to process as a child. You weren't guided through it properly by the adults in your life. So then that aspect of you will come out in your relationships, in your work environment. You know, like we see it publicly, like, you know, Jeffrey Epstein being a predator among women, or you know, should I mention Donald Trump? That might be a little too,
Yeah.
you know, or Hitler, right? Or Hitler. Like, I know I should be careful what I say on here, but like, you know, those are Stalin. Like those are
Be
extreme.
careful. Be careful. I'm President Obama.
I know, but I mean, but then it happens in our families too, and a lot of the times we don't. It's not intentional, you know, because the person doing, they're not seeing it, and then you're in an atmosphere. If you're in a dynamic, whether it's a family system or your workplace, and everybody is operating under those programs, you know, that you went through as a child or whatever, and you don't always know how to sit. And then we have a lot of judgments, right, around pain. We have a lot of, since there's a lot of fear around it, we don't want to go near it. People aren't comfortable with it, right? They're not comfortable to face it. So again, that atmosphere is created where you feel like you have to hide it, right? So you might lie about it or go into denial or just suppress it completely and try to cope with it the best that you can. I know for me, in most of my adult life, much of my pain I worked through in prayer. I worked through it in therapy, coaching, self-awareness, which is all great. But even that has its limitations, I've discovered. And I'm going through great experiences and awakenings and seeing that does serve a place. You know, it's a very healthy container to work through things. But it can almost become like the priest confessional, you know, where you go, you tell your sins, you leave it there, and then life just keeps going on as it is. And we can't change other people, but there is a reality that, you know, you can do all the inner work you can, but if your tribe, if your collective is not changing and they're stuck in their patterns, it's that wound can also kind of like just sit there and fester, and people feel stuck and they don't know what to do. And then that's a whole nother layer to the dynamic. So it's like, not only do we need to do our own inner work, we have to have, you know, we have to be brave and have those conversations with those closest to us too, where the wounding has happened. And sometimes you do need outside people, right? Sometimes you do need family therapy. Sometimes you do need to take breaks from certain relationships that, you know, are, you know, and those are the challenges, because that's like real life, right? It's like we can read the nice book with all these and we can go to therapy, but then real life happens and another dynamic. So
yeah, I know
anyway,
in my own life. Yeah, I know in my own life, there's been times where I consider you a safe place because I've shared things with you that I haven't shared with the public about my struggles and about things I deal with in my own life. But I was talking to a friend. We did an interview a while back on unfamiliar territory, and I think that has
Mhm.
everything to do with our subject today because um, at the time where I was going through pain and hurt and trauma, sometimes we feel like, and I may be asking questions that may not be on here, but I'm just going with the flow. But we did a show on unfamiliar territory, and we were just talking about how sometimes, and I don't know how you feel about this. I'd love for you to elaborate on it about it. Sometimes it's hard to go to somebody that you are familiar with as it relates to your pain because you are afraid of judgment, maybe
Mhm.
retaliation, fear.
Mhm.
If I truly tell them about all my what I'm going through, will they still love me? Will they still affirm me? Will they still accept me? Will they still be there?
Right.
So sometimes what helped me was, and I've been in a situation where I tried to be open with someone that was really close to me at the time, and they pretty much did a 360 and turned it around. And it's a demon. You got depression. It's like it didn't really help me out at all. My pain increased. That was with somebody I was very familiar with. In so many ways, um, there were people that I went to that I was unfamiliar with, that I really wasn't close to, that unfamiliar territory. And it
Mhm.
seems like in so many cases in my life, that's where I received most of my healing from people that really didn't know me. Now
Yes.
I don't know if that's everybody else's experience, but it's like I don't know why it's difficult. Like I'm in pain. I can't tell my wife about it. I can't tell my husband. I can't. But the sad truth is, even those that are close to us, it seems like we should be even more open with them. But
Right.
everybody else, it seems like that's not everybody's story. So, have you had situations like that before where you had to like step out and go to somebody that didn't even know you to just vent or just to
Yes.
release yourself? It's liberating.
Yes. Yes. People aren't emotionally close to the situation generally. And like I was
Yeah.
mentioning before, we get into family patterns. There's like, a culture to a people react. I grew up in a family system that knew nothing of boundaries at all. Like
Hmm.
large extended Italian family that experienced my aunties and uncles, and they experienced a lot of trauma and didn't have the resources to work through it. So me, my brother who's no longer with me, cousins, we're the next generation, you know, under that. And I mean, somebody did something wrong. It's at 30 minutes, the whole family, the whole family knows about it. So you can
Yeah.
only imagine how safe it must have felt to talk to somebody, in that. And so that's why I'm thankful you're opening the door to have this conversation, because it's not just on one person. Like this is a work not everybody's ready for it, but we need to take the steps for it. We need to step out and do it because we do have an epidemic in our country. We have a drug epidemic. We have suicide, we have mental health issues. We have so many things that are a reality, and we need to be brave enough to change the culture within our families. We need to learn better communication skills. We need to learn, better ways of coping. We need to learn money management. We need to learn all those tools that will, create safety within our homes, because that's our home, that's our base, right? That's our foundation to
Yeah.
life. And if you don't feel safe in your foundation, it's out in the rest of the world. And so I agree with you. Like I know growing up, I had different various, adults or different people in my life where I didn't have the same experiences with. So there was that, calm, peaceful container. And everybody needs that, definitely. Everybody needs that.
Yeah, yeah, that is so true. You're so full of wisdom. I don't know if you realize this. I just soak it. I just like soak it all in, like and
I'm honored to hear that, but trust me, it's, I think that wisdom has come through a lot of pain, to be honest with you. It's a tremendous amount of pain and experiences, and
well,
it's always good to get to the other side of being here. But I mean, even just a week ago, I had a ton of trigger responses that did not lead me in a good space that I have
yeah,
spent the entire week dealing with and integrating.
yeah,
And yeah, yeah. So we're not
yeah,
always like out in the open with the mess.
yeah. Well, your words just have substance, and that's very rare that I hear in people. What I mean is, not only do I hear what you're saying, I'm listening to you, but actually I feel it,
Mm.
and there's a difference. Um, so, what steps can someone take who may have pain? Because this has a lot to do with acknowledging that it's there.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I could say, oh, it's not there. Pretend like I gave the illustration about falling off the bike earlier. Like my leg ain't broke. I'm fine.
Yeah,
What can bring what steps? And it don't have to be step one, step two, but
right.
what can a person do to? Because I feel like you can't. This is just my opinion. I feel like you can't really be healed from something if you are in denial that it's not there. So, what steps can someone take in just acknowledging that the pain is there?
That's a very, very good question that I think has various answers to that, because you answered it even as you asked it. And I think that's a struggle we all have, literally, especially when you see someone you love that's in pain and they don't see the pain that they're in. That's incredibly challenging because you're not inside of their body. You're not fully in their experience. And then that can cause you pain, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're navigating that. I mean, that is, I mean, and if the person, like you said, you broke your leg and you're telling everybody around you, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. It's almost like the people around you need to honor that until
Yeah,
life brings you whatever it is. So you're right. Until you literally, I mean, it's like you're either going to ignore it and have really not great consequences, or you just literally have to be like, okay, this is here and I need help.
yeah,
I need help, so that's the first step. And then thankfully we are living in a time where we have access to many resources. The obstacles
yeah.
that some people do face are access to those resources, though. So
Mm-hmm.
steps we can take in general to help people, because we do have the internet and it's free to almost everybody, is to get these messages out. Um, they may not all be the best, but call the mental health hotline, and look for the resources that are in your community. Usually the county department has phone numbers and resources people can independently, reach out to. Go, places of worship can be, but we all know that can
Yeah,
that's a whole other can of worms for some of us who've been through religious trauma. Um, you know, but even just, learning about meditation. There are so many free meditation resources out there. I mean, heck, go to the grocery store and breathe an essential oil in,
yeah,
and it's not, go to the park, go to the park, get around, get into nature, make yourself a priority, speak up to people about where you're at, if you're overburdened, if you're overstressed. I It's a very real thing when you are in those situations and you've been in that pattern for a while, to go through, sometimes it might be really scary to speak up about that. And then you get fears about how people might react, or whether, at least find somebody that you feel comfortable enough to speak up to about it, and even like help you through that process to make decisions about changes you might need to make in your life. But it is serious. I mean, these are the things that lead to drug addiction, lead to suicide. And I've literally have firsthand experienced all of this, actually. My brother died of a drug overdose. I have a brother-in-law who I recently lost to suicide. I had addiction problems during my adolescence, and thankfully spirituality radically changed my life, but it's not like that for everybody. Not everybody has those same experiences, and we have to be sensitive and compassionate to the differences among us all, because everybody's in a different process. And I think the worst thing that someone can do is kind of like shove God down someone's throat or tell them they're a horrible, rotten sinner.
Yeah.
This is all happening, that's like the worst. And I think many of us are waking up to that, thankfully. But we have to keep talking about it and let the other wisdom flood in so that people's lives can change. But at the end of the day, it is up to us. It is, we have to want to. However, if you do ignore it, I'm navigating a situation with my mom, who I shared with you has bipolar disorder and is now entering cognitive decline. And it's like, how much does that person who's in that state, where are their decision-making capabilities too? So it is important to be aware of these things and conscious, because real family, real friends do get educated about these things. You do make changes. You need to do these things, or it will keep perpetuating. And that's just the hard reality of it. But that's the reality that gives real hope, not like a fake, let's just put a Band-Aid on it and pretend this isn't happening, But I think also making time for healthy fun and ways to de-stress in our lives is like, we have to honor that is a very real need that we as humans have. And we are not robots, and we're not, we have limitations, and we're not here to work our lives away and die, so yeah.
That's good. And thank you. That's a brilliant answer. I'm going to ask this question. Then after this, we'll take a break and we'll come back. But why I told you the reason why I pretended was because I've lied. There are many people that do that. So why, for me, that was easier for me than to just tell the truth. And people always ask me, well, Henry, what's your definition of confession? Of course, you look in the dictionary, it means to confess something or to tell.
Right.
My definition of confession simply means I tell the truth. It may hurt to hear it, but at least at the end of the day, I can say I told the truth. Well, that's in regards to someone or myself. So why is it so easy for people like me in the past to lie about my hidden trauma rather than just admitting it?
I know you have to actually tell me the answer to that question. So I'm going to ask you. I got to turn. Now we need to hear your wisdom on that. Why did you lie? Why was it?
Well, I would say the overall reason why I feel like not that I had to lie, but when you are in an environment where you feel like you don't have a safe place or a safe haven, especially somebody that you're close to, like I talked to you earlier about familiarity.
Yes.
It's not like you say in your mind like, I'm gonna lie.
Right.
It just naturally happens, if that makes sense, because if you're fully truthful with someone, it depends on who it is, there may be some backlash from that. So I would say that's the ultimate reason why I felt. And like I said, when I lied, it ain't like, and I'm talking about my inner trauma and stuff. I'm trying to be, and transparency had a lot to do with it. I always tell people, vulnerability, you see part of me. Transparency, you see all of me. I can be vulnerable with anyone, but I believe people such as yourself and other friends that I have, I know I can sit at the table and say, I struggle with this, or I struggle with that, or this is where my pain is at. How can I get help, or whatnot? Whereas with other people, like you said, especially in religious circles, I just don't feel safe. I mean, my inner circle is like it's really hard. Some people tell you, well, just process in private. But sometimes that's really hard to do when the
Yeah.
person that deals with depression and
Hmm.
mental health, it's like process in private.
Right.
No, I need somebody to have coffee with. I need
Right.
somebody to talk, and I want to talk about how great ministry is. Tell me something that only you and God knows.
Yes.
Tell me
Yes.
something that only you know, that you wouldn't want somebody else to know, not for humiliation, but for wholeness and healing, and to
Right.
restore and to restore and to help each other. Um,
Right.
just like when I went through my first divorce, and uh, my pastor at the time, we're still friends. We've been friends for over 12 years, and
Hmm.
he's such an amazing friend. And when I sat down with my pastor at that time, um, it wasn't all about what she did. I was telling him where I felt like I failed, because I was very immature at the time, didn't know what commitment was and all this type of stuff. I told him where I felt like I failed as a husband. We both had our shortcomings and mistakes and things like that, but it wasn't about her at that moment. It was
Hmm.
about me. And I can't tell you, till this day, once a year, I do a public post about my pastor at the time, and I make it public that no, I don't believe everybody's causing religious trauma in people's lives. There are people, like you said, even in the spiritual community that can help. I'm not saying help is limited to that, but at the time in my
Right.
situation, I was able to sit down with that pastor, and we didn't talk about how well I played the piano or how great my show is doing, the ratings or whatever. No, we talked about this is my trauma. This is why I think it happened. This is this is my pain. This is what I kept hidden. This is why I didn't feel safe with such and such.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I can't. The feeling is unexplainable to be able to sit down with someone like that, or
Hmm.
anyone in general, and just say, "Okay, I'm gonna lay it all out on the table. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
ready?" I'm not.
And
I'm
not,
not saying. I'm not
yeah.
saying the image. I'm not
Yeah.
saying the image that people are portraying, because on Facebook or
Right.
so anybody can portray an image that everything is okay.
Right.
Reality was I wasn't.
Right. Right. Yes.
I hope I answered your question.
Well, yeah, and actually, and I can relate. It's interesting the wording of it though too. So I can share with you. You might not lie, but you might not speak up either, and
Yeah.
that has been my journey to hold it, to hold it, to hold it, to process it, because I'm in a reality where I know the people around me can't meet me there. So I will hold it. I will deal with it in all of these other ways. However, I have been having life experiences where I'm like, nope, literally can't do that anymore. And in 2018, I sold my house and moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I knew I was in an intense change. And I remember before I left being at a family gathering, and literally what I'm stepping into this season, I didn't know the timing of it. I knew there were things I needed to speak up about.
Mhm.
We're in 2021, 3 years ago, but I was so burned out and so tired. I was like, I don't even have the energy. I am selling my house. I'm moving to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I'm going to just try to change my life. I'm just going to try to change my life because that's the solution that I have. And then I'll revisit this with family. Well, what happened when I left? I encountered every life experience that was just all those issues repackaged with different people. and, and I basically hit a nervous breakdown and so many other experiences that, maybe I know we're going to take a break. Maybe we can get into that in the next part of our conversation. But um, yeah. So yeah, you can either lie, just like suppress it and not speak up
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
You like explode, or make the most clear-headed decisions, because you're carrying it all and you don't feel like you have somebody, like you said, where you can just be like, here it is, I'm going to lay it all out for you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and like I said, that's how my freedom came, and today that made me a better person.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
still, I'm not gonna lie, I still struggle with, and it's not like it's a necessity. It's not like I feel like I have to do that. But if I feel like I'm at a hard place in my life, I know I can pick up the phone and call you,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that you'll help me, and I don't feel like, she's gonna use this against me. She's gonna view me differently, and those type of people are very rare, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. And so anyway, uh, for so many people, it's easy to just lie, then like you said, or suppress it. I'm gonna take a break for about a minute. We're here with my dear friend Jenean. I want to ask all of you to, like I said earlier, share the broadcast. We're going to get into the second half here in a second. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Brother Henry and You Show. We're talking about why I pretended like I wasn't in pain. Once again, we're here with my friend Jenean. It's such an honor to have her on the show today. We have a few more questions and then we'll be done. My next question is, do you think many people avoid their pain because this kind of we kind of talked about this a second ago, but maybe you can go more into detail. Do you think people avoid their pain or sharing their pain with someone because they've been unsuccessful in finding that safe place or that safe person to share it with? And in so many cases, some people um, they shut down altogether.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've covered a lot of that. Um, I don't know. I think the best way to approach that is just looking at how can we change that? How can we change that dynamic in our reality so that people don't feel that they have to do that?
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
And
Yeah, like, and feel free, like, if there's, because I don't know if there's
oh
anything
no,
you can
no,
do
no!
if you want.
I just looked at that. I just looked at that question. It did seem like we did cover a lot about that. But the next question is, many would say, um, pretending really doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't hurt me, even though I think it does. Um, and even if I do open up, no one, no matter who they are, no one
Mm-hmm.
will understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your message to someone who refused to share, not just share their pain with someone, but just being able to acknowledge that pain and say, well, it just it just helps to just keep it quiet because nobody's going to get it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
they act as though they're the only ones that have been through pain and trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody else will understand. So, where does that mentality come from, or why do people hold such that belief?
I think that there's various reasons, a lot of probably what we've covered already. And that is one of the most challenging things. I mean, that's like what we touched on before, like when someone's just in denial and you're that outside person. I mean, you can hold space for that person, and you'll hold space as long as it's in your heart to do so, as long as you have the capacity to do so. And probably one of the best things you can do when you're in a situation with that is start to be real yourself, right? Be that which you want to see happen for them, which will also mean take the risk to speak up of where you're at in your capacity. If you literally are like, I can't do this with you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to hang out as much with you as more, which can be challenging, right? Because then as compassionate people, often people who are very compassionate and have healing gifts and so on and so forth, you so want to endure to the end. But I think sometimes like you have to shift it, or you'll say, I can only spend this much time with you, or even just trying to maybe shift the dynamic into something else. You may have to even change the topic for a while until they come to a place where they're ready to open up. So that's going to be different for every situation, I think, too, depending on the person. But yeah, the best thing you can do is just be as honest yourself.
Yeah, and I know another thing that has helped me in the past is the ability to relate. I just did a show on that a few days ago. It's nice to be able to relate to someone. Oh, you've been through that? I've been through that too. You've been through that
Yeah.
trauma? Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's an excellent approach to take right there, And it's interesting because our experiences come through. I mean, I'm in a process, so I hear the scenario and I'm like, I just have to be real with where I'm at and what I'm going through and my capability. But you just added to the table, like, hey, you could also meet them where they're at. You're absolutely right. Like, relate to them, and maybe that will help them feel safe and comfortable to open up
Yeah.
more.
So after confronting the trauma, and what I mean by confronting, that means acknowledging the trauma. What can one do to stay on that path of honesty as it relates to their pain? Like for example, at one time one may lie or whatever, pretend like the pain is not there, and now they're at a healthy place in their life where they can continue to just be honest with who they are, their pain. How can one stay on
Mm-hmm.
that route instead of sliding back to where they were at first?
You just go back to square one, be honest again. It's really the only way. It's as simple as it is, because that life, it's going to happen. I think we could take steps forward, 10 steps back. That unfortunately is the unpredictable part. But yeah, to stay there, know yourself, be really self-aware, listen to those little intuitions inside of yourself where you're like, okay, I remember this pattern before. I feel like, I might be going in the direction where I don't want to talk about this or whatever. You just got to take that step and keep going. And even if it's not with another person, get your journal out, do some writing, find other outlets to express it so that you can keep moving in that direction.
That's awesome. And my last question is, I've such enjoyed this conversation with you. My last question is, I don't know if this is even possible. Is it possible for a person to experience so much pain? And I use the illustration like you feel numb, like it's not even reality. Like if somebody's stabbing me, I don't feel it. It's like, is that even possible where a person feels so much? It
Yes.
no longer feels like a reality anymore. It's like it becomes the norm. Like I'm so used to being hurt and betrayed and cheated on or
Yes.
whatever the case may be. It doesn't even, I mean, it doesn't even phase you anymore. Is that even possible?
Absolutely. It's called disassociation. It's absolutely possible. Yes.
Explain disassociation.
You escape, you literally, you become numb, you escape your reality and mentally, even if it's mentally, you just check out. I had times in my life where I've done that. I remember when I went through my divorce, actually, I have a video of myself sitting on the couch, literally catatonic, while my daughter is dancing around me, just playing, trying to get my attention. And I'm just numb, staring out into space. I was in so much pain. Like, that is a reality. And, you know, for me, it took time. It was, you know, I had my outlets were my relationship with God and people God sent into my life, therapy, all of those things. And everybody responds in different ways. But yeah, it totally can happen to anybody. And the best thing we can do to support, you know, because when you're in that state, it can be very hard to reach out for help too, because you're already numb and you're already kind of checked out. So, you know, it's important for us to be aware when we might be, somebody close to us might be in that state, to be there for them, be present, hug them, offer tea, take them out, you know, help them, help ground in, right? Do grounding exercises, breathe, hold their hand. You know, I also started having dissociative experiences after my brother died. So that was another very traumatic life experience. And a memory is coming to me as we're talking about this. My daughter and her husband are in a band, and they used to play out. And I was at one of the shows where they were playing, and what was happening for me in that moment, I literally felt like I was outside of that experience, and I had tears and grief coming, but I felt like I was going to die. Like, I felt like it was a very transcendent, like, my life's going to end soon. I don't know how much longer I have to be on this earth. And I'm watching them play, but I felt very, just literally out of body. Like, I didn't know how much longer I had to live. And my son-in-law's mother was sitting next to me, and she lost a son. I know a lot of people with a lot of losses, and I'm telling you, I didn't even have to say a word in that moment. She reached and she held my hand, and I totally grounded back in that moment, came right back, like, oh, I'm here. She said nothing to me. Whether she was aware of what I was going through or not, I don't know. But that's another example of just being in tune to those around you and helping your friends and loved ones ground back in when they're in the midst of the pain, because it's all you can do sometimes. There's no quick fix, as we know, right? Everybody's different. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. What a wonderful show. And Jenean, thank you so much for taking this hour to be with me today. I learned so much from you, and I'm digesting it all, taking it all in. And you're such an inspiration. I appreciate your friendship. And I'm looking forward
appreciate yours.
Looking forward to dancing together.
Yes. We got a plan.
He knows I'm a comedian, so I'm just honored to know you. I want to ask everyone to share this broadcast. Just know, as we go to a close, that there is a safe place out there. There is somebody you can open up to. I'm not coming across as being judgmental or anything, because I know what it's like to lie and to pretend like it's not there. And even for you to acknowledge it, I know that for some of you that may take time. Maybe you're watching and you're saying, well, Henry, I'm not ready. That's okay. It took almost years for me to get to where I'm at now. And that took me going back to reevaluating my life, and in the area of transparency and being open. So I want to encourage all of you to share today's program, pretending like I didn't have pain. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Jenean, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I hope everyone have an amazing day.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you have enjoyed today's program. We want to connect with you. Visit us at facebook.com/The Brother Henry and You Show, or visit us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Henry Harris 100. We're so grateful you tuned in today and hope you have a fantastic day.